Coming up this week on the OK Bloomer podcast.
New intro. We start with a high school theater backdrop. It's like draped cloth. As Blossom runs out, does a split-legged jump wearing a Davy Crockett hat. I mean, already this is crazy and I love it. I'm here for it. Season 3, let's go.
He invites them all to the children's concert and they all are like, we have other better things to do, and they all bail. Meanwhile, nobody's out there looking for Blossom while she's missing.
Right.
It's like, nobody seems to care.
Put an APB out for that big white van.
That's what I said. I never know what time of day it is in this house. Like, Anthony's always like in his work uniform in the middle of the night, but then he's also awake during the day all the time. Like, it makes no sense. He's got to be on drugs still.
Yeah.
There's no way you can be awake 24 hours.
Don't know about the future. Don't.
They don't care about the future, because they live it in the past. Sal and Curtis are taking all 5 seasons of Blossom to task. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be weak in the knees. This show's got more range than Dick on the keys. Only gal in the house, and that's how she goes. One brother was a junkie, and the other one was. Weekly lessons coming fast in the Russo flat. Blossom's teenage girl problems are as big as her hat. So take your opinionations and make them shine. It's the OK Bloomer podcast, and it's about damn time.
Don't know. Don't know.
You're watching the OK Bloomer podcast right here on the Dufferin Avenue Media Network. I'm Curtis Anderson alongside Sal Accardo. What is the OK Bloomer podcast? It is where 2 bored male adults started watching the entire series of Blossom from start to finish back during COVID lockdowns and thought they'd make a podcast about their 2025 observations as adult men watching a 1990 show aimed at teenage girls. So we assume. Anyway, it's been quite the journey, Sal. Here we embark on our 3rd season. I can't believe it. Look back for the first 2 seasons, Sal. What do you remember? What sticks out?
So much, man. We learned so much about these characters, all the Russos. We learned that Joey Lawrence is a tour de force in acting. Who would have thought, man?
That's probably.
I mean, not to say that who would have thought, but he was the standout character from what I remember during the show's original run in the 90s, and it still holds up today.
100%.
Just like how great he is on this show.
We embarked on this journey because a long time ago we worked together in this like community news station, and we would do these crazy all-night edits. And while we were editing all night and hawked up on caffeine, for some reason we would just like make fun of, or not even make fun, just reference Blossom, a show that neither of us had ever watched, but we knew that Joey Lawrence, whoa, and like the big hats, and, in my opinionation, that stuff. So it was just.
I think those were the only 3 things we had to go on, and
it was like we beat those 3 things like an absolute dead horse, right?
Yeah.
So then during COVID lockdowns, we thought it'd be fun to do this, and I mean, we did it over Zoom or whatever, audio Zoom, whatever that thing was called that we used back in the day. And then we ended up going live, sitting across from each other the day before your wedding. And we did a couple episodes with John Green, the only 2 episodes we ever had a third. And that was fun. I still remember fondly those episodes. How was John doing? I loved how his brain worked.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting to have like a third party in on this to give their perspective on how things go, because I feel like you and I have been doing this now obviously for 2 whole seasons, so to add somebody else in there who had not watched what we had watched up to and to give their like outside view on it, I think it added a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Those are 2 of my favorite episodes, just because you and I have such a rhythm and we know the things, like I know the things you're going to pay attention to and you know the things I'm going to pay attention to, and we tag in and out. And then somebody this John Green who's just like, did you ever notice that the Russo's couch is the same color as Mickey Mantle's socks? And you're just like, what do you...
Yeah, what a wild card. What a wild
incredible thing.
Yeah, we're going to have to get John back in on here at some point.
Absolutely. We'll figure out a way. Yeah. I'm repping the OK Bloomer merch, 1 of 1.
Oh, there it is.
Given to me back in the day.
Available now, or maybe not. I don't know.
We're drinking out of our stolen Rollin' Rock cups from Sal's going away party. I asked the waitress if I could buy them, and she looked at me with all the pure hatred one has with a job you don't enjoy, and she goes, just steal them. And I was like, I shall.
Yeah.
And speaking of stealing, I I found Gone Fishing on VHS the other day, Sal, and I was gonna buy it when I bought my
Amazing.
Gray Owl VHS. I was gonna buy Gone Fishing, and I regret it because I should have sent it to you as a gag gift. But that was another thing. We have a lot of stories apparently about stealing stuff, even though I think we're pretty good guys. But you stole the Gone Fishing poster from another night out, didn't you? You stole that from the bar wall.
I did. That's a long story that I was hoping to not get into. I believe it was your birthday,
Yeah.
and I forget the name of the establishment.
Oh, Sal,
But-
it was the Crazy Cactus.
That's
Back when
right.
it was by the exhibition, before it
Right.
moved downtown, and someone died, and I think it closed.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's shocking, but also not shocking if you ever spent a night at the Crazy Cactus.
Well, someone could have died the night that we were there because
Absolutely.
it was
Well,
an
it
insane
started
time.
with
And
my-
I remember being
I had because it was my birthday, so they made that big banner that said Lucky Kurt. And by the end of the night, my friends Jessica and Neil made it say Lucky C word. And
I do
Kurt.
remember that.
Apparently, you can
I remember
change those
getting
letters
a
around
full,
real easily. And then some
I
guy,
remember having a full pint of beer thrown at me for no reason whatsoever.
the local
then being
university
very-
football team apparently liked to party there. And yeah, I remember the guy
Yeah.
ordered a drink. They handed him the drink. He turned around and just threw the drink in your face.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember being very angry at the end of the night over all of the things that had happened throughout the evening. And there was a poster on the wall for the hit 90s movie starring Joe Pesci and Danny Glover, Gone Fishing.
Yep.
And for some reason, I just got it in my head. I was like, I'm taking this poster home tonight. And everyone's like, why?
Well,
And I was
mean,
like, it doesn't matter. I'm taking the poster home. And I took it, I rolled it up, put it in my jacket sleeve, and I have it framed. Actually, I still have it framed to this day, but it sat in my basement for a very long time. And then when we were redecorating my son's room, maybe 2 summers ago, we made it a Super Mario theme. And I went to a store in Toronto that sold movie posters, and I bought him the official Super Mario Brothers movie poster for his room. And I was
Yep.
like, I need a frame for this. And I was like, wait, I have one. So it's still in the frame. There's just a Super Mario movies poster over top of it, and it's hanging on the wall in my son's room. to
one
this
day when your son is mad, when he's a moody teenager, and he's going to go to
Yeah.
his room and kick over his Mario stuff, and he's going to rip that poster and see what's
Yeah.
behind it. And that's going to
Yeah.
be like his canon moment. He's going to see that artifact from an Academy Award winning movie like Gone Fishing that cleaned up at the Oscars that year. Just
He's
acting
he's
tour de
gonna rip
force
it down and be
between
like,
these two.
what the is
and he's
Gone
going to
Fishing?
be like, this is the moment. I've been being lied to my whole life. This Mario stuff has been in the way of such a life-changing performance
Right.
as you find from not
I
one
gotta
to two
say-
actors in Gone Fishing.
I gotta say though, you were talking about you found the movie at a thrift store the other day and were gonna buy it for me. I don't know if you remember this, but you have bought me that movie before because I have it.
Did
on
I on
yeah,
VHS?
I have it on DVD. You bought it for me on DVD.
Yeah, that's
That
good
being
stuff.
said, I've never watched it because I'm too afraid to watch it, to be honest. Because
Oh,
I feel like
absolutely.
the story gives it more hype than probably the actual movie is worth. It's still in the plastic wrap, but if I ever meet Joe Pesci or Danny Glover one day, they are 100% signing that movie.
And if I may,
Please.
they would probably be so excited to see that.
Oh my god,
That's the
yeah.
thing people do not understand. I saw a post on Facebook that got 1 million. I don't know if it was Twitter or whatever. This girl was like, if I
Right.
ever get the chance to meet Beyonce, I'm going to ask her about her role in Austin Powers and pretend and completely ignore everything she's done in in her musical career. And everybody was like, ha ha ha. And as a former interviewer, I was like, that's exactly what you do. You think she's
Right?
so sick of talking about her music career? You think if someone came out and was like, "Hey, I want to talk about
Yeah.
your performance," and she would be so excited. She would remember that interview for months. If you rolled up,
Right.
if you got 5 minutes with Joe Pesci and you wanted to talk about Gone Fishing, he would be like, "Who is this guy?" He would remember you forever.
Dude, I'm sure
I was
he's
almost in
sick.
Clerks 3
I'm sure he's sick about
because of that. Because I had the chance to legitimately interview Kevin Smith and I didn't ask him about Clerks.
Right.
And then he got too high.
There is
That's
definitely merit
that's
to
another
that.
fun story. I'll tell my Kevin Smith story. My roller coaster of knocking that was the best interview I've ever done, and he loved me. And he was like, come
Right.
see me after the show. And to be continued.
I remember you texting me that night, be like, I think Kevin Smith wants to hang out with me tonight. And I was like,
Oh,
amazing. Yeah, right?
Fast
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that he didn't want to hang out with me. I think it's that he couldn't physically hang out with me. He was not ready for Alberta weed. He was not ready for the strength of that, which, I mean, there's something romantically poetic about that, but yeah, he could barely stand at the end of the night once he got off stage, and I was like, "Sir, are we still gonna go up, Mr. Smith?" And he was just like, ah. I was trying to get him to sign Nick and Jessica's wedding gift, and he basically held the pen still, and I tried to like move the DVD to make it say Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Full story to be
I'm sure he was getting that BC stuff at the time, so it probably mangled him greatly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I think there is something to that, because I'm sure Joe Pesci is sick about talking about Goodfellas and Full House, Home Alone. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. If you when I met Mick Foley, I didn't interview him, but I got to meet him, and I ordered his. It wasn't good. He tried to write like a serious dark fiction.
Right.
I remember. Phenom, look it up. Mick Foley wrote one like fiction book, and it has a really dumb title. And it has nothing to do with wrestling, and it bombed, and nobody cared because it wasn't about his career. But I showed up, and I was like, "Hey, I really like this book." You know, like, he went for it. You wrote dark fiction. I wrote a book about dark fiction too, and I gave him my Gina French book, and he was like, "Yeah, so I got thrown off a cage, hey?" And I was like, "All right, well, me, I guess." So, all right.
I mean, I guess
Is
like
it
there are
Titam Brown.
Tatum Brown, yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I've
So
never even heard of that.
yeah, Tatum, I don't know. Anyway, I have a signed copy of that, and I gave him my book, and
That's
I thought
cool.
he'd immediately tweet about it and send me into the bestseller list, and that is not what happened. That is not what
No,
happened.
all he
at
wanted to
Sal.
do was talk about getting thrown off a cage in 1998 by The Undertaker.
Right?
Which, I mean, to be fair, if that happened, that's probably all I'd talk about for the rest of my life too.
But he complains about it. He complains about that's all anybody wants to talk about, and he literally, like, I threw him for such a loop. He didn't know what he didn't want to talk about this book. He didn't want to talk about my book, and he was just like, "So, you got any Hell in the Cell stuff for me to sign?" I was like, "No, man. This is
Probably
me
just
connecting."
So thrown off. He was probably just in the headspace of like, everybody's gonna be talking to me about Hell in a Cell today. So that's
Yeah, there's
That's
been
only
some
where his
misses.
mind
When
was.
when we went to WrestleMania and I paid a scalper $400 for a meet and greet with Shawn Michaels, and I had one chance to like bond with him, and I showed him my before and after workout picture, and I was like, "Yeah, I just watched like, Monday Night Raw and worked out, and you really inspired me to like get in shape, and my life's really good now." And he was just like, "Next."
yeah. Let's see a before and after picture of Shawn Michaels then and Shawn Michaels now.
Yeah, I was like, "No, thanks, man. Like, I really got my stuff together, and I've got a great job
Yeah.
now and a hot wife." And he thought that was pretty funny. He's like, "I have a hot wife too," and I was like, "Yeah, but yours is like stripper hot, Sean." Then he looked through me and was like, "Next." And then the
Yeah.
next person, like the 6 people before me, just like, yelled in his face, "Oh my God, it's the Heartbreak Kid!" And I tried to be a better person and bond, and Shawn Michaels would want to hang out with me. He'd be like, "Thank you for treating me with respect." No.
Never meet your heroes, Curtis.
Right? So
Never
now
meet
to go
your
back to my
heroes.
original thing, I don't know if that's
The
accurate or not.
Heartbreak Kid, Shawn
Listen,
Michaels.
Jack, I got news for you. Jack.
That's why people come to OK Bloomer, to listen to us talk about wrestling.
Right? And Beyonce and Kevin Smith.
All of
Phenom,
the
where are we going? It's season 3. Let's go, everyone.
Oh my God.
Can you hear him giggling away in there? Shout out to Phenom for putting up with this. I mean, it was one thing when it was one thing when it was just you and I, Sal, at like 2 a.m, just like
Right.
drinking and blubbering about Blossom and Gallagher.
Now we have to
and-
involve other people into
And
this
now we've
mess
got
still.
this studio set up, but we need someone to actually monitor levels and make sure we're still rolling. So, all right,
Yeah, keep us on
Phenom, what do you
track.
got for us?
All right. Season 3, Episode 1 is Runaway. First aired Monday, August 10th, 1992. IMDb says Runaway Blossom and her beau go to a hotel. Meanwhile, Nick is worried about her running off with Vinny. TV Database says Nick wakes up to find that Blossom has run away with Vinny. And Disney Plus says Runaway Blossom and her tattooed beau go to a go to a hotel.
Okay. Glad they got the tattooed bow part in there.
Yeah. I love TV databases. Nick wakes up to find that Blossom has run away with Vinny. We don't really see him wake up. That's such an unnecessary. Like, it could have just been Nick finds Blossom has run away with Vinny, but we have to. I mean, I guess. I mean, you could put Nick wakes up before anything that happens in this show, because technically that's accurate.
Yeah.
I also sent you a little more. I thought it was really weird that the season kicked off in August.
I noticed that too. I thought that was weird.
Imagine coming in from outside, you're riding your bike, playing hide and seek with your friends, you got a popsicle, and you're like, "Oh yeah, let's see if Blossom got knocked up."
Yeah,
Get this out of the way before school starts.
Yeah, we can't wait the whole summer to find out.
What was going on in August of 1992, Phenom? Enlighten us.
So some top hits at the time were Boyz II Men's End of the Road, TLC's Baby Baby Baby, Madonna's This Used to Be My Playground, and Guns N' Roses' November Rain. Some other Nirvana played their final UK show at the Reading Festival on August 30th. Also during the Guns N' Roses Metallica tour, James Hetfield of Metallica was burnt by pyrotechnics, forcing the band to cancel part of the Montreal concert. And
that was in Montreal, that's right.
Movies included Aladdin, Sister Act, The Bodyguard, Basic Instinct, and Home Alone 2: Lost in New York.
There's a lot going on in that. We've never had like the Metallica GNR thing either, Sal. I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan, and I know you like. It's not that I dislike Metallica. I just never really got into it. Early on, it just seemed like there was like oh, you got to be a Guns N' Roses fan or a Metallica fan. That was kind of like what my friend groups in my school was saying, and I was always like Team GNR. So yeah, I have nothing against Metallica. They were just never a band that I like really jumped into their like discography and really went through. But you're a big Metallica fan. You just saw them in like that huge concert, right?
I did, and I'm going to see them again in a month from now.
Really?
So,
Holy,
yeah,
crazy! Good for you.
Yeah, very excited. That's crazy that they toured together because I would say, if somebody said name your top 3 bands, my top 2 are easily Metallica and Guns N' Roses. So
you don't know the lore of that show?
No.
It was like the most classic. I think it's what had the rift, what started the rift between those bands for quite a long time, because Metallica was opening, and then Buddy got lit on fire by the pyro, and like their set got cut short.
Right, yeah.
And it was just like the crowd was already angry for whatever reason. You could just like feel it there. Moby would say that there is a third sense when you go to these things.
Yeah, Moby knows.
Moby knows. That's my favorite Moby quote from the documentary of Woodstock
Axl
99.
didn't come on
He's watching
stage for
people
another
get like
4 hours or something.
What?
So what? Axl didn't come on stage for like another 4 hours to save the day.
Well, so basically, they ran backstage. They're like, Axl, you got to go out early. You got to save this thing. Everybody's mad. And he wouldn't. And then when he finally went on stage, his Axl Rose brain was like, wait a minute. Everyone's going to remember this concert for Metallica lighting themselves on fire. We can't have that. So he throws his microphone down and walks off stage to like one up the disaster. And then the place rioted, I believe. Yeah. That's Axl Rose for you. Not a good guy,
so.
but troubled artist. The Moby joke to finish that that's my favorite thing of the Woodstock documentary, where they talked to Moby and he was like, when you play festivals, sometimes you develop a sixth sense of like, this is weird aura and energy. And I'm like, Moby, you looked out and there's people getting like beat up and sexually assaulted, and you think that's some weird sixth sense that only you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's over. No one listens to techno. Let go.
His only sixth sense was that his manager wouldn't let him go out there and assault people himself.
Magoo. So I don't think he's doing much there. All right, you know what? Let's jump
Let's
into
get
this.
into it. Season 3, let's go.
No cold, Sal. Relax, you guys. I got this. Okay. No
All right,
cold
turn my
open.
camera off.
Here we go. New intro. We start with a high school theater backdrop, just like draped cloth. As Blossom runs out, does a split-legged jump wearing a Davy Crockett hat. I mean, already this is crazy, and I love it. I'm here for it. Season 3, let's go, right? She does like a pirouette, and bam, we are into what I would argue is the most iconic scene of Blossom. We have Joey Lawrence, a slow pullout of him air punching nothing, and oh my god, ripped jeans Sal, red flannel tied around the waist, leather jacket, white shirt, hockey hair on point. He's perfected in this like 3-second scene. His cunning yet vacant Joey look. He does the half splits thing, pops back up, and just explodes with charisma and talent. And you don't even notice, but Mayim's there, and she's just standing there profile in like a piano dress, just kind of like shaking, because she knows. She's like, there's no point me doing anything. Like, nobody's watching me. This is the Joey Lawrence show. Let's not kid ourselves. God, he's so good. Up next, Anthony looks bored.
Yeah.
As Blossom dances around him, and that is actually the face I make during every single one of the Anthony D storylines in this show. He's just like putting up with it, waiting for it to end.
Yeah.
Blossom, strangely in a ballerina outfit, like spins around him, and I don't know. I don't know why this is the scene that represents Anthony. I mean, look at the Anthony character. He should be sitting on a pile of in an alley on a pile of trash while supermodels throw themselves at him, because that's the essence of the Anthony character. But that's okay. Next, we get a camera pullout from 6, and the face Jenna Von Oy is making is like an angry version of the one Joey Lawrence was making earlier. Like, I'm going to take every second of screen time I get and make this show about me, because I'm also uber talented. And underneath Jenna Von Oy, though, we get the name David Lasher. Is that Vinny? Who's David?
So
that is? Okay.
I was going to let you go through all your intro stuff, and then I was going to address the names
sounds good.
afterwards.
But I said, who the hell is that? And then I saw Portia. No! God. Great. She's back. And then we get that.
So that's all I have for the intro, is that David Lasher and Portia Dawson are obviously added to the main cast this season. And there's no Bernard Hughes as Buzz Richmond. He's not in the credits.
I noticed that too. And we get the shot of Nick at the piano where Blossom dances on top of the grand piano in a tuxedo shirt and jacket with no pants.
I didn't notice that.
She's not wearing pants, Sal.
That's hilarious.
I don't know why. It just
because you wouldn't
matter.
See him from the waist down. It doesn't matter.
And then I remembered.
I'm not wearing pants right now.
What?
I'm not wearing pants right now.
That's fair. And then I remember that this was 1992 and Guns N' Roses' November Rain video was on top, and we have that epic Slash playing the ending of November Rain on the grand piano, and that is not this. Right. This is Blossom without pants while dancing while her dad plays piano, and I don't know what to make of this. It's something I've never really thought about.
I thought you meant Nick wasn't wearing pants.
No, Blossom's not wearing pants.
Okay.
Sorry, did I mess that up? Blossom is dancing on the piano without pants.
Okay.
While her dad plays. I don't know. I don't know, man. So then it ends with her dressed like Britney Spears. Yeah. And then she does her like float over thing, but instead of going crotch towards the camera, someone told her that was not a good look. So she does it sideways and she drops down, and I swear she pops back up for that last 2 seconds and she looks 30. She is just caked on makeup, and it looks like a completely different girl than the Britney Spears that was like 2 seconds ago. And that is that. That is one of the greatest opens in 90s sitcom history. I'm not saying that facetiously. The song rocks. I will never skip the intro. That's my thing. I will rock out to that every single time. And just the Joey, it's so good.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Love it. Love the new intro. I look forward to your observations every week until we get to the end of season 3, and you're sick of this one too.
Okay, Sal, I'm going to tag you in here, but first, instead of Too Many Cooks, we have this new thing they do where they like put this like Corel Draw pastel filter over top the edges. Actually, not unlike what we have here, except it looks like that design that's on like the styrofoam cups everybody longs for.
Yeah,
in like
that's
the 90s.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just weird. It's just like it's stylistic, but at the same time, after watching the first 2 episodes, it's like this is them being lazy. They don't want to go to those exterior shots anymore, so they just put this little weird filter thing over.
Yeah, and it's like a freeze frame. I don't know if it happens in this episode, but like now it starts with like a freeze frame on whoever's starting the scene with like that with like the cutout around them with like this background.
This overlay thing.
There's new like peppy music, and like it feels like the whole show is getting like a stylistic shift in this season. And that's why I was wondering. I never actually went back and looked, but I was wondering, like, did Blossom change nights of the week that it was airing in the third season? Because I feel like overall there's a shift in the tone of the show from season 2 to season 3. And now it's like it's we'll get into the details in as we go through it, but it feels like now they actually are trying to aim the show towards the demographic that I think was originally meant to be for. Because now we'll get into it, but it seems like it feels a lot more like Saved by the Bell now than it does in the previous season, if that makes sense.
If I can tag on to what you said there, because I totally agree with it, and I never thought about it till now, but it seems less Monday nights and more like Thursday nights.
Right.
The way it's the tone of it, for sure. That's a really good observation.
Yeah. So I wonder what was going on here. If they just
maybe it switched nights.
And they were like, we're not appealing to this demographic as much as we are to this one, and they decided to change it up because there's some ridiculous shit that comes up in the next couple episodes. But
before we finally dive into it, I just want to say Runaway by Del Shannon, such an underrated song. God, that's a good song. Right. And also Runaway by, is it Entrance? The 90s dance song is also great.
Yeah. And isn't that like a Bon Jovi, The Runaway? Isn't that a...
Jesus, yes. And Soul Asylum has
That's
Runaway
what I thought they were
Train,
going
forever
for.
Ruined by the Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode where Jim gets drunk and sings it to that like teenage boy.
Yeah.
And doesn't what's his face have a song about Runaway?
I mean, we could go on all day, but
who's that guy that's popular with the kids these days with all the tattoos on his face? You know him?
Post Malone.
Yeah, there he is.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Phenom. Okay, yeah. So we get a title card for this episode. The title of the episode comes up on the screen in the freeze frame at the beginning. It says The Runaway. So Nick can't find Blossom. He's talking to Joey in the kitchen, and this is supposed to be the same night that we left off in the last episode and the To Be Continued. But Joey looks like he's at least 5 years older than he was in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
He looks so much older here. His hair is longer. He's got that magnificent hair. I clocked that. Joey knows that Blossom left the house with Vinny because he saw them out the window when he was looking with his binoculars. And that stops Nick in his tracks. He said it's called peeping and it's illegal. And did you notice? I don't know. Just right away, I noticed like how pissed off Nick was in the previous episode about Blossom. And this is all supposed to be happening in the same night. And now he's just like stopping dead in his tracks to have a conversation to Joey about how peeping is illegal and doesn't seem as angry that Blossom has run away.
Yeah.
The whole time he says he's going to call the police, and then Joey keeps trying to stop him while he's doing it. But not before he mentioned that him and his neighbor look at each other through binoculars and have phone sex with each other. Like it's a weird start to the episode already.
Yeah, we're back to sitcom.
Yeah.
I clocked that Judith Yellison's back. Bill Richmond's back.
Yeah.
Josh Goldstein and Jonathan Price are back. And I said, give me what I need. Glenn Merzer produced it. No schmuck.
The schmuck is
Don
out.
Rio wrote it solo. Just Don Rio. So I said, all right, let's see what Rio does. I want Joey's button up. I loved that. What he was wearing. I would buy that today if I could. Nick asks Joey if he's seen Blossom, and Joey goes, small girl, looks kind of like Streisand.
I didn't get that at all. That's hilarious.
I think that she looks like Barbara Streisand, and I mean, I guess, but it was such a like, this is where you're using that joke?
Yeah.
Like she's getting taken advantage of in a van right now, and they're like, talking about.
That's
Joey
what I said. Like it didn't
no.
seem as panicking as it should have been from the way that it ended off in the last episode. So he keeps trying to call the police, and then Joey keeps like getting him to hang up the phone and talk him out of it. Suddenly, there's like a lot of crammed information here that Nick has a job coming up. He's got a children's concert the next day. So suddenly he has a job, which has never come up before. There's a flashback to the fight scene that him and Blossom had in the previous episode where it's got like the Vaseline lens look on the screen.
Yeah.
And yeah, Nick is coming off as like the cool dad now in this alternative take. And I couldn't tell at this point if this is real or if they were retconning the argument that happened in the previous episode. But he was coming off as like very understanding of where Blossom was coming from and wanting to date Vinny. And he was, like it was just, it completely changed the argument that they had in the previous episode.
I was spinning in my chair trying to catch up to this. Yeah. I was like, because I thought they were just going to cut and paste the flashback from the last episode.
Right.
I was like, that's cool. I don't think they've ever done that before, but it was the same scene but different. And I was wondering if they were like Laura Palmering it, where they just like shot multiple takes and weren't sure which way they were going to end the season.
I thought of that too, because it looked like, I mean, there'd be no way to tell, but it looked like it was all shot the same time. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So I don't know. That's pretty creative. If they took a couple runs at how to end the season last time, how to play it. Maybe actors
and then they worked it all into this episode.
Maybe the actors were inspired and did that one first, and they were like, "No, it needs to be more angry." But they like that takes, and they found a way to use it. But I don't know. I kind of liked it. It was just this episode. I'm already like on my toes. I'm not. It feels different, like you said.
Right. So then it cuts to Blossom and Vinny. They're driving in his van, and their plan was to skip town.
Wheels have already come off.
Right. He said they're going to hit the open road like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And then Blossom says, yeah, or Thelma and Louise. And then they flash back to the argument in Blossom's room again. And this time it's also different.
Yeah, it's like a third one.
Yeah. And I think it's basically just like they're finally realizing each other's side of what they were trying to get across in the argument. Blossom's realization is that Nick really cares about her, and the scene ends happily instead of an argument. And that's kind of what's going on there.
It was effective.
Yeah.
I
think so.
really liked it. I was trying to think of another show, an example of a show that did this. And I know there's definitely some, but I couldn't come up with one, and not one this early.
Yeah. So Blossom's in a phone booth. She calls home. Nick is listening in on the conversation, and Tony's pretending like it's a magazine salesperson.
I wrote, quick Sal, call John Green to point out that Anthony wears nothing but his paramedic's outfit. I remember that was something he always got stuck on. It was like in the middle of the night, he's just walking around wearing it like he's so proud he's a paramedic. Yeah, he is.
Well, I wrote that here. I was like, what time of day is this supposed to be? Is it the morning? Because they're still on the road and Blossom's calling them and it's dark out, and I don't know. But either way, I tracked that, even in running away from home, Blossom's acting responsible. Yep. Basically letting Tony know to let Nick that she's okay. Vinny ended up getting them a motel room in some shady ass motel, and he used the name Cliff and Claire Huxtable to get in.
Yep.
Which they'd be turned away at this point in time for using those names.
There was one joke that really wasn't a joke, where it's like, where are you calling from? And that's an odd thing to ask a magazine salesperson. Anthony goes, I've always, because Nick's listening and he's trying to, make it seem like he's talking to a magazine salesperson and not Blossom.
Yeah.
He goes, I've always wondered where you're calling from. And then someone in the audience just goes, oh, like something dirty just happened. Like it was such a weird overreaction to that. It wasn't even a joke.
Yeah. Keep the audience in check here. Come on.
Right? Yeah. So they're going to get a hotel room. And from the previous way she was throwing herself at Vinny in the season 2 finale, I wrote, I assume that the sex that is about to happen will be consensual. And then we learned that Vinny got the room using the name Cliff and Claire Huxtable. And now I'm not so sure.
Right? I knew there was
Bill
a
Cosby joke, folks.
Yeah. And you got it. So we get a too many cook shot of the
I
motel.
only explain the jokes if I don't hear Phenom laugh. That's my thing in the control room. If I don't hear a kerfuffle, I'm like, hey, I got to explain it.
Yeah, this ain't hitting.
Audience of one.
Too many cook shot of the motel, and there's some tense ass music happening with a sweet saxophone riff. I love it. I love the new music.
I said it
Blossom's in the
sounds like
motel room.
seedy 80s heat of the moment crime drama jazz as we go to Blossom sitting up in
right?
bed the next morning, Sal.
Right? So Blossom's in the motel room. Vinny is revealed had slept in the van. He brought her coffee and a jelly donut. She said something about how Vinny is like Rebecca De Mornay at the beginning of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. And he says that everybody thinks that he's actually Robert De Niro at the end of Cape Fear. So take from that
References
what you
going
will.
off like bombs in this
Right?
episode.
At the end of the conversation, it's basically Blossom comes to the conclusion that she wants to go back home. So this runaway scenario hasn't lasted. Yeah.
Time's up.
Yeah.
I learned
Yep.
something about myself when he walked in. I'll be honest.
Okay.
You know how much I love coffee,
Right.
right? It's you know, it's I love my wife and children and coffee, and don't make me rate it because it's all mixed. It changes from day to day, that list in order of the things I love. But he walks in with a tray of coffee, and honest to God, immediately I was like, and I counted 3. Like, he bought 3 coffees. I was like, okay, like, who's the third one for? What have we got here? What are we looking at here? What are we looking at? What are we look? I didn't even care about the whole like did they or did they. I was just like, and then I thought about like being on vacation. I was like, oh my God, if my wife ever just like came in with coffee the next morning, like I remember that for the rest of my life. Like, just, hey, I let you sleep and I went and got coffee. I got you 2. Like, it'd be the greatest day of my life. And
Very
I was like,
easy to
there's no
please.
jelly donut. What is happening here? I was looking, I'm like, there's 3 coffees, no jelly donut. I'm annoyed. I totally like lost track of the plot for a little bit there.
Wow.
We learn, yeah. Oh, and it says, oh yeah, coffee and a jelly donut, breakfast of champions, and the audience laughs. Guys, that's the
Yeah, what's wrong
greatest
with that?
breakfast of champions. That's my dream right there.
Yeah. So yeah, Blossom says she wants to go back home, so that's where Vinny's going to take her. We get another outside shot of the Russo house, and
The
here
only
I
place
took note
Vinny's going to take her, apparently.
right? They pep the out of this music again, man. It's like so much better. So we get 6 for the first time in season 3. She's sitting with Nick at the table, and she's saying if she had heard anything from Blossom, she would have told Nick, and then said that she's lying. And Nick's like, yeah, I know, obviously. If you heard from Blossom, I know you wouldn't tell me.
Can we back up, though? Sorry, Sal, to interrupt. Can we back up?
Sure.
So we have this guy who, like, what do you make of the character at this point? Just to do a little aside here. What do you make of this character?
I don't know. I feel like this whole Vinny thing is very forced. It was like he just appears in one episode, they're in love and running away together, and now, yeah, I don't know. I don't like it so far.
But his whole thing was Nick disapproves of him because he's this like rough bad boy,
Right.
but he clearly is not.
Yeah. But
Like,
he
he slept in
is
his van.
because
He got his runaway girlfriend a motel and slept in the
Yeah.
van when both of them, I guess, could have slept in the van if that was an option.
Right.
So he's being completely respectful to Blossom.
Yeah.
So what's not connecting here? Is he a scumbag? Is he not? Like, what? I don't know. This character just, yeah, it was all over the place. I could not understand what they were trying to get across with the Vinny character.
It's judging a book by its cover, man. I think that's what it is.
But so is it the leather jacket?
That's
Like,
totally.
why did Nick immediately
leather
was like,
jacket, ripped jeans, greasy Italian who lives in a van?
well,
You know what I mean? Get this out of here.
we brought her flowers and she slept on a waterbed. I don't know why that struck me as funny. I
Yeah.
was like, so does this guy suck or not? Like, I don't know.
It's very inconsistent, which will come up in
Okay,
later
that's the word I was
episodes.
looking for. Thank you. Inconsistent.
Yeah.
Okay. I said they make 2 dated movie references that you touched on. Yeah, so he paid for a hotel for Blossom to sleep in while he slept in his van, and nothing happened. And she's like, "Okay, take me home now." And he's like, "Well, this has been fun.
Yeah.
This is good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glad this worked out like it did. Another day in Vinny McBitchy or whatever his name is. What's his name? Vinny
Vinny Videcci.
McTardy?
Bonatardi.
That's it. Okay.
So
All
yeah,
right.
back in the kitchen, you got Six talking to Nick. Basically, as I said, she said that she wouldn't tell Nick if she had heard from Blossom, and Nick says he knows. But Six makes a good point here. She says that even in running away, Blossom is such an adult that she'll end up doing the right thing, which is actually true for her character. Um,
The whole time this is going on, I couldn't look past Six's giant purple pie man hat from Strawberry Shortcake, and then
Yeah.
eventually it like morphed into more of just like a giant purple pirate hat. I was like,
Yeah.
girl, this needs to stop. You have a problem.
They were
Six.
really forcing this fashion through at this
You
point.
have a problem, Six.
Yeah. So it's almost weird. Like Nick is going to Six for advice. I thought that was kind of an odd dynamic. Nick says he has a plan for forgiving Blossom, and it includes killing Vinny. And then he suddenly has to split out the door because he's got this job, this important job that he has to go to in the morning. And everybody seems to know what it is. The children's concert. I used to love going to that. And that's where Nick's off to today.
But then he's about to leave, and then she goes, "Mr. Russo," and he turns around, and she goes, "I know how you feel." And it was a super tight shot of Jenna Von Oy, and I didn't get that. It's like, what? Why was that? They just like hammered that Six
Yeah.
knows how he feels. Did her daughter run away with some scumbag that lives in a van too? I guess that was her.
Not
I don't know.
unexplained.
Yes.
So then it's a cut to back in the kitchen, and there's Joey, Tony, and Rhonda. Joey is ogling over Rhonda again. The crowd is just eating this up.
I wrote,
This is the
"Oh,
whole
good. Let's
dynamic.
find out what the stripper thinks of all this."
Yeah. And then she goes on to explain how she dated the entire football team at her high school when she was 16. And that was like the entire point of the scene. Her and Tony start making out, and Joey's just like super jealous. And that was basically where the scene began and ended. It was like it was a nothing filler scene for that.
So a few episodes ago, we tried to like talk about how she posed nude to pay for her school, and it was this weird, like, I guess that was like an empowering moment. And now we just learned that no, actually she is a whore.
Right.
She slept with the whole football team while Anthony just sits there and eats his cereal and listens to this. What's this?
Because it makes
I hate
makes
this
Joey
character.
go crazy.
I hate these
and
new
that's
characters.
hilarious.
I hate change, Sal. I don't want
Yeah.
I don't want Applegate here. I don't want Vinny McBitchy, whatever his name is, McTardy. I don't want them. I don't want these two. They got to go. I thought I hated
Yeah.
Buzz, but I hate these two even more.
I would have to agree with that, but unfortunately, I think they're here for a while. Next scene, Nick comes walking down the stairs dressed as a giant pink bunny. Walks into the kitchen. Rhonda clocks it, says, "Nice PJs, Mr. Russo." And then he invites them all to the children's concert, and they all are like, we have other better things to do, and they all bail. Meanwhile, nobody's out there looking for Blossom while she's missing.
Right.
It's like, nobody seems to care.
Put an APB out for that big white van.
Yeah,
Did
right?
you also notice during that scene around the table, they were jump cutting like crazy between two shot and two shot? It was like
No.
Applegate and Anthony, and then Joey and Anthony. I think it was just like the same shot, just jumping characters, and it was very annoyed. And then they just they start making out, and Anthony's got a big mouthful of Fruit Loops. There's bigger. Your sister's missing, you guys.
Yeah,
oh.
that was all like, yeah.
I'm always a little annoyed by the C&D stories, but this time I was very annoyed.
There really wasn't in this episode. Like, there was really nothing. So yeah, all the kids bail on the kitchen. They say they're not going to the concert. Just when Blossom arrives back home, and I feel like this whole children's concert storyline was added in for comedic value, so that when Blossom and Nick have their serious, come to a head moment, Nick is dressed like a ridiculous giant pink bunny, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, the clock says it's 3:30. I don't know what to make of that. So that was a long drive home if they left in the morning.
Yeah, well, they left in the middle of the night.
That's pretty late for a kids concert as well.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This is all over the place.
It was like when the square dancing competition, the mother-son square dancing competition, went till 1 in the morning.
That's what I said. I never know what time of day it is in this house. Like, Anthony's always like in his work uniform in the middle of the night, but then he's also awake during the day all the time. Like, it makes no sense. He's got to be on drugs still.
Yeah,
there's no way you can be awake 24 hours without being on drugs.
This is all just a Anthony fever dream.
Yeah, totally.
He's actually just laying in the alley with a needle in his arm. None of this is actually happening. This whole series. That's how it's gonna end. There's that one show that was a St. Elmo's Fire where it just like pulled out and it was like this autistic boy imagining a
Right, the snow
whole
globe.
world in his
Yeah.
snow globe. That's what's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's gonna pull out of
Yeah.
Anthony high in the alley. And it's just gonna and then Alf being
gonna
chased
zoom
by
out of the
FBI
straw.
will run by.
It's
Willie!
gonna zoom out of the straw as he's snorting his cocaine off of,
Yeah. Off of what he thinks
Off of-
is Rhonda Joe Applegate, but it's like a Home Depot flyer. Which has the same personality, by the way.
Yeah, totally. So
So he calls her
they-
boyfriend a hoodlum,
Yeah.
and they do this weird wide shot push into Nick. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen that before. Like,
Yeah,
the
it
shot
was odd.
starts wide, and instead of just cutting to a close up, he starts walking, and the camera guy pushes right in. Like, what?
Yeah.
Someone's out there just like making a name for themselves in this,
Yeah.
trying to produce
we
this
gotta be cinema
overproduced
here
this
on
Blossom episode.
So basically, they explain that they both come to terms in what they've learned from their argument with each other in the previous episode. Blossom says something about she felt like Snow White, but now she feels more like Elmer Fudd, and I'm assuming it's because Nick is a rabbit. And in the end, this whole situation of her running away, which I thought would, to me, seem like a way bigger deal than it turned out to be, kind of just blew over, and they came to some sort of an agreement. And
It was
she
very
said, like,
weirdly paced. Like, they would get really ramped up and then just like de-escalate. They would
Yeah.
get ramped up and they would de-escalate. It did
Yeah.
that like 3 or 4 times, and then
yeah,
basically Nick was like, I just was mad that he was going to try to sleep with you because that's all I do. And like, I know how men are because I'm like the king of men. Is basically like, I'm not being funny. That was like that was my takeaway, where he's just like, I know
right.
how crappy I am, how crappy I treat women, and I didn't want someone else to treat you that crappy because I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah, exactly.
Good story.
And Blossom was Blossom basically said to him, like, look, I did the responsible thing in this situation. And like, I decided to come back home, but like, I'm not going to stop dating this guy because you don't approve. So,
and then Nick
that
says
was
he
kind
has
of-
to go. He has to go because the concert starts at 11:30, and that clock says it's 3:30.
liar. Oh my God.
You didn't see us coming for you 30 years later, did you guys?
No, they did
Who was
not.
the
Wow.
who was the continuity person on set that day? They're fired.
Yeah, they're gone, man. So yeah, they have like this father-daughter moment to end the show, and I said, I guess everything's back to normal again. And the show ends on the freeze frame with like the watercolor like silhouette around Blossom to like end the show with the credits. And that's how the episode ends.
Today's takeaway:
Let's
the
hear
whole
it.
prodigal son thing is bull. Reward the people who stay consistent and stay there. Why do we, as a society, always like hold up the screw ups that are on like strike 8 and then they figure it out?
Right.
Right? What about us, Sal? What about you and I that just grind 24/7, just make happen and succeed? What about us? Huh? We should have
We're left
failed
behind,
6
bro.
times on the Blossom podcast before we finally pulled it off. But no, we got it right the first time. Where's our praise? Where's our 400? Where's our 200? Where's our 100 views? Right?
Yeah. Actually, I gotta say about that, I love being the only podcast where viewers take back their views. That's a badge of honor to me. I love it.
I was like, can you unwatch things on YouTube?
Yeah,
We
I
did it.
viewed this.
We
I'm
did
gonna
it.
take back my view. I don't
I
want to
was so excited of our numbers, and then I hit refresh. And I was like, what is that? Stop! Someone
did they all
unplug
just
the
go away?
internet. Someone unplug the internet. We're losing views. I've never seen that before.
Who cares? You know
It's all
what,
part
man?
of the journey. It's all part of the journey. This is what happens in the
And you know
Russo
what?
house.
I love that this is basically our own book club, and if this is like, nobody ends up seeing this, who gives a I don't. I
Amen.
don't.
Sal, who's in the pit?
No pits this week.
Oh my God! Of course not.
No pit
Because
characters
this
week.
episode was the pits.
Right? Yeah, they if last episode, the season finale of season 2 was a highly rated episode, they waited 3 months to come back. They did not stick the landing on this.
They did not deliver with this. There was no lessons learned. The bunny thing was
No.
dumb. Like
Yeah.
they had all that momentum from the season 2 finale, and they lowballed it. It was lazy.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right,
Agreed.
that's it.
But they got a new intro and they got new stylized jazz. scene changes. So there you go.
We'll see what happens. I'm pumped. I'm so excited for season 3.
Let's get into it, man. What's next? What do we got next?
Next up is season 3, episode 2, Dear Mom.
Awesome.
Spoiler: no deers appear in the show.
EAR.
Yeah. That should have been a giveaway, but I can't spell, so.